All right, I'm not trying to hype this up, but seriously, last night I was up in the studio until I think it was like 8:39. Because what started was I had this mix up here, and I'm like, I want to show you guys a mix through, start to end, as in a mastering session, start to end. And it's like, yeah, that's going to be so cool. You know, we'll kumbaya, look at all these cool techniques. And then I started doing it, and I got bored. I'm like, fuck, you've seen me master tracks 100 times over. There are case studies I'm going to bring to you in the future, which I've definitely got down on my list. But it just felt redundant. I'm like, no, I want to push myself. So there's this kick drum here, okay? Where's the kick drum? Here we are. Let's take a look at this. This is the kick drum here. So let's listen to this kick drum. And at the tail of it, it goes boo, boo, boo. And you've seen me deal with this a few times. But anyway, I thought, well, could I use things like soft clipping to help shape it and change the harmonics, or compression? And I went through some different, iterations of this where, I did end up using soft clipping to help control it a bit. And this is what I came up with, but this is not what I really want to show you. I'll just play it for the sake of showing you what I was going through last night. I still got it there. It tames the click a bit of the kick, but the woof is still there. And then I did that. I did compression. I did EQ, and EQ definitely worked. Now I'm going to show you about 1,500,000 different ways I approach this with EQ, but each iteration I'm going to get closer and closer to the aha moment I had. Because what I found, I was like, whew, this is juicy. I've got a whole bunch of impulse responses I ended up running and different shit. And anyway, this is beautiful. So we're going to go here and we're going to get isotope 11 out. Now, specifically, Ozone 11. The EQ does something very interesting. So I'll bring up the FFT graph. We can see here's that's that kick on the second there. This kick is there. Actually, wrong little highlighter tool. This one here. Okay, the kick is there. That's the kick drum with the wah after it. And I was thinking in my head, well, I want to bring out the punch, which is there, and I want to control the wah, which is there. And I'm like, well, is there an EQ where I can use linear phase and minimum phase at the same time? And I know Ozone 11 allows you to do this. So what I did was I got the equalizer out. You put in digital mode and we'll get the VON out and then we'll boost the P out. Okay, let's do that. But it just gets better as we go on. So that's around 50 hertz. So let's solo this. We'll play it through and try and find the exact tail of this. Okay, so that's where the VON is. Perfect. We'll take that out of solo. We'll gain it down about a decibel or so. Beautiful. And let's just see AB if that helps it. Beautiful. Definitely works. Definitely works. We're going to get better. So this here at the moment is in linear phase. Okay? It's in linear phase. And there's a bit of a twist that comes up. Now we're going to do the punch. Okay? So let's solo this and get the punch of it. And I don't want that in linear phase, I want it in mixed phase mode. Bit more definition there on the kick, and that wallop afterward is controlled. Now, here's where things get interesting. I was completely confused because at the time of doing this, now I know better and I've done it in the better way, but I thought 100% was linear phase and that was mixed phase, whereas in fact, that's minimum phase and that is linear phase. How did I find this out? I went into the manual, but what was in the manual? There was some magic here. Some magic, which made me think of even a better way to put this all together, and it gets fucking wild. So click on the wheel here, okay? Go to EQ, and then click Show Extra Curves. What the fuck is this? What is it? Okay? Oh man, I was blown. So blown away. Sorry, Ozone doesn't do that to me. But seriously, what it is you can actually see the phase response, the phase delay, and the group delay. And if you look here in this vertical column, you can see milliseconds, which showcases or plots vertically the time delay based on the frequency. And then you've got the degrees in which that frequency response is moving. Now, why? Why would we give a shit about this information? And I'm going to show you why. What we're going to do is we're going to go into delta mode. Okay, we're going to click here, and here at linear phase, it's all linear. There's no time delay on any of those frequencies or phase delay. But as we move it over, there is. And remember, I said I wanted to EQ specifically the V, that bit after the transient. And this now is a beautiful way to monitor and observe what EQ moves are affecting the transient or the body, even though it's generally just an EQ that is applied to the entire stereo signal. The signal isn't compartmentalized into sustain or transient. We can hear more detail of what is going on, as well as visualize it on these plots, which I thought, wow, this is wild. So take a listen to this kick drum. Okay, we're listening to the delta of that V signal, that 50 hertz that sustains out, and listen to the delta as I go from linear phase to minimum phase. How wild is that? So you can actually hear that the delta signal, through the delta signal, that this cut is affecting more of the transient in minimum phase mode than it is in linear phase mode. This now is my premise for making these EQ decisions when I'm trying to carve the low end, or I'm going to start applying this more in sessions and see how it takes shape. So I can even go here and I can go, do I want mixed phase or linear phase? Well, let's turn off this other EQ. And let's go to the punchy portion and have a listen in the delta, how this actually shapes. See how there's a delay there? That white line in the group delay. Okay? How this shapes the punch, going from linear phase to minimum phase. Let's go. Beautiful. I didn't even think of this. Now, these lines and these plots are just graphics. They're not necessarily the sound itself, but it was just my cue to think a little bit outside to go, oh, wait a second, there's a delay here, or this phase is moving, or this one isn't. What happens if we start monitoring the delta of it? And it's really interesting because, and you can get really granular, so you can actually move these graphs around. You can zoom into them, so you can make them more pronounced, so you can see exactly to the millisecond what's happening. Now, are you going to hear genuinely, like, be able to A/B every single time, minutia of like 2 millisecond difference group delay at a particular frequency? Maybe not. You might not be able to pick out the A/B directly, but when we're trying to make intentional decisions in a mastering session, intentional meaning the decision works in favor of the sound and the direction we're trying to go with that move, being able to monitor the delta, move the phase relationship, and you can do this for every band on here independent of one another, and also just observe how that plots on the time scale, so the temporal domain, is insanely powerful. And I had no clue Ozone 11 allowed you to do this. This is wild. Like, how's this? I was in the beta and I remember actually now them putting in the vertical axes in terms of those lines plotted across, not just in frequency, not vertical, horizontal axis to plot horizontally, because it used to be free, as in you only had the vertical ones, not the horizontal. And I can now like sort of recall these dots coming in at some point during the beta stages. I completely forgot about it and I completely relearned it. And it is insane. So here is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to spend the next week. The next week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compartmentalize this process so I can detail each step and exactly what's happening and a method for applying some of what I discussed in this video. And then I'm just going to put out the best newsletter guide to using this. And I'll do this next week because everybody who's on the newsletter, there's over 2,000 working professionals on the newsletter that I send this out to. You guys will get a full detailed breakdown of this process. And if you want that, join the newsletter down below. That's going to be my goal for this week. Write an awesome process guide for using these bits of information here and compartmentalizing it so it's super detailed for you. So that way you guys can kick some ass in your masters. I really hope you enjoyed this because this was a ding, weird light bulb moment for me. And yeah, until next time, take care.